Hey everyone, today we are going to have a little bit of a chat about Dracaena and how to look after your Dracaena. I know that a lot of people find that these plants are fine, they're very easy care. Certainly in any book and any of the plant descriptions that you get on your plants, it will always say easy care. However, I know from having lived in the world and spoken to other people, seen people's posts on Instagram, etc., that not everyone finds them the easiest plants to care for. So I thought, as they are one plant that have managed to survive and thrive in my care, well, this little leaf accepted, I thought that it would be a good time for me to try and share some of my tips with you. I also haven't been looking after these plants as best as I probably should. They haven't been particularly thriving lately. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of plant care and talking you through what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. I need to figure out a way to get these in. I don't know if you can see behind me. This is my big boy. He's lovely. This is probably my oldest plant that I've owned myself. So I need to make sure that he's happy. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I've attached you guys to a different location. We will see if this works when I'm going through the editing of it. Fingers crossed. I thought I would first just show you my bog standard Dracaena that I own. Sansevierias excluded, because if you didn't see in my last video or you haven't heard in the plant news, that Sansevierias are no longer a genus of their own. They are part of the Dracaena family. So I'm not going to be talking about Sansevierias today. If you want to, you can click the link. I think it will be there, or it might be the other side. I'm not really sure. That will give you all that you need to know about Sansevierias, and I will also go through my collection with you. I think that I've collected together all my Dracaena for you. The unfortunate part of Dracaena is because they require so little care, I don't always remember to look after mine, and that does end up with them being somewhat neglected. Thankfully, that's a good thing in the Dracaena world. I think one of the most common problems that people come across is they try to give their Dracaena or their Madagascar dragon tree. A lot of people will try and give it too much love, which unfortunately will kill your Dracaena. They, for some reason, just thrive on neglect. This particular fella, this is a Dracaena fragrans. He's not looking in the best shape, I have to admit, because I've had him in very low light for a very long time, but it just goes to show it can live in practically no light. It's not thriving, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not doing well. It's not dying by any stretch, but you can see the stems are very thin. I don't know if you can see here. So the stems are very, very thin, and a lot of the leaves are kind of curled and thin and just kind of stretched or etiolated. So that will be what happens to the Dracaena fragrans if you keep it in very low light. The benefit of them is you can keep them in very low light and they will survive. So it all depends on what you want from your Dracaena, really. This is another two varieties of Dracaena fragrans. You can actually find them very cheaply, usually in Wilko's or in supermarkets and so on. So these two, I just love the colours of them together, so I decided to pot them up together. There is one leaf that's not doing so great, but otherwise they're doing fine. These are just potted up together in some bog standard houseplant compost, and they are doing fine. I water them probably in winter. I think I've watered them about 3 times in total, and in the summer I tend to water them maybe once every 3 weeks or so, if they are starting to look really dry and droopy, but they don't seem to need it. I fertilise them probably about once a month, I guess, usually on that 3-week cycle, and they do just fine. They don't seem to need much in the way of fertiliser in order to grow. If you have them in a higher light situation, they will grow very fast. So that's Dracaena fragrans with lovely variegated leaves, and this will grow up into be a tree type shape like this. So this will be eventually what that will become, although hopefully with slightly nicer shaped leaves. Sorry, I'm sorry. It was all my fault. This is the Madagascar dragon tree, or Dracaena marginata. So this has a slightly different leaf shape. It has exactly the same growth pattern, but you will notice that the stem is more woody and brown, like wood, like a tree, and it's just a lot more thick and lush, and the leaves are very long and thin. Often when you first buy these, if they're very small, they will have upright leaves that only kind of grow in a, oh, how can I do this? Like this, and kind of splay out in a like V shape, or an upside down triangle. But as they mature, their leaves will just naturally tend to droop. That's not a bad sign in your plant. It's not a sign that your plant is unhealthy. It is just a sign of the leaves being older, and the new growth comes out of the top here. So this I actually got because my first one, this big bad boy in the back here, grew far too fast. What you will be able to see, this one I have kept in very low light. I don't think I've given him any light, so he hasn't grown much in the last 2 years, I don't think. So he's just sort of ticking along, doing okay. He's alive. I actually like that because I don't want him to grow very fast or very far. I like the size that he currently is. My other one, on the other hand, you will probably be able to see that I had this plant quite a long time before I knew anything about plants. So, okay, right. You can probably see from here, he's not too bad actually. My brother, I think, has one that's extremely sort of straggly, but if you grow this in slightly higher light but don't turn the pot, then the tree or the stem will grow towards the light. So you will find that you get kind of twisty stems that kind of go out into the middle of nowhere. Something really weird happened to my light. Sorry about that. I think it's this fella. He's skewing my light, but he's giving me a nice glow. So if you don't rotate it, then it will grow towards the light and you will kind of be stuck with it. You can try and train it to a pole, but that will be the growth of your tree. So if you want to keep it straight up, you need to make sure that you are rotating it every now and again, every couple of days, to make sure that it's getting an even amount of light if you have it in a light source like a window. Mine, again, is not living in a light source because I don't really want him to grow much more, so he is pretty much as he's going to be for now. If you wanted to get your tree to branch out like this, where it's got 3 little branches at the bottom coming from one thicker stem, I don't know if you can see that from there. Let me show you on this one. So you can see you've got this thicker stem here and you've got 3 branches, whereas on this one you've got a longer, thicker stem until you've got the 3 branches. So what happens here, how you would get that, is to cut the stem, and if you cut the stem, it will start to grow new growth out of the side. So I don't know if you can see that at all, but where they've obviously cut in the middle there, it's no longer grown from that point, it's grown out from the sides. So that is how you get this lovely shape of the Madagascar dragon tree. This is the same for your Dracaena fragrans and other varieties of Dracaena that are in this tree form. So they will always grow from the side of the stem. Often, I think what a lot of people, and particularly nurseries, will do is they will stick plant wax or sealant of some kind. I can't actually remember what it's called. I think it's plant wax over the top so that it kind of increases healing and prevents rot, that kind of thing. I believe you can actually just use candle wax, but I guess you want to be careful not to sort of burn the plant by using it really too hot. So that is how you would get this nice tree shape, should you want to, and should you only have a single stem. You can also propagate these by chopping through the stem here. So it's propagation by stem cuttings only. You can't propagate from the leaves. What you would do, you can do air layering, but that sounds like a whole faff. I've never even tried it. But what you would really want to do is cut it, chop it here or wherever, but you really want to go for a thicker part, and particularly if you are dealing with some kind of stem rot, then you want to make sure that you are chopping it below or or above, depending on where it is. If it's very low down at the base, you want to save the rest of the tree, then you would want to chop above. If you have it quite high up, but the rest of the base is okay, you would want to do it high up. You know what I mean? You would know what you're doing. So yes, that is the growth formation and growth habit. Is this very distracting? I kind of feel like this could make really fun hair. I think I am far too distracted to be making videos right now. But hey ho. So I am going to give these lovely plants a shower because they are just covered in dust right now. I did want to show you some normal things that some people worry about with their Dracaena. So here, this is not a very good way of holding it. Here is a good example of a dying leaf. With the Dracaena, they will always drop their lower leaves when they no longer need them. It's a normal part of their growth cycle. You don't need to worry about it. It is completely fine to get a few yellow leaves on your Dracaena, or to see a few of them dropping off, etc, etc. Here is where you can use the rule of thumb of if it's less than 10% of the plant, then it's normal and it's okay. If it becomes more than 10% of the plant, perhaps that's when you want to start looking at, is there something else going on with my plant? So to remove these, what you want to do, I will do a close-up and insert it here, but what you want to do is find the base of the stem, get your finger onto the, this is impossible to see. I'm just going to say it. Get your finger onto the top of the leaf, and you can just press it down until it comes off. And this won't hurt the plant, and you should be left with a kind of moon shape leaf end like this, and that's completely fine. Okay, this might be tricky to video, but bear with me. So if we want to take off an old leaf, particularly if we're trying to tidy up our Dracaena and make them just a little bit more tidy and upright, or if they've got very bushy and very tangled towards the base, it doesn't harm the Dracaena to take off some of the leaves. I would kind of try not to do more than 25% of the leaves, because they still need them and it will still cause trauma to the plant, but 25% is not going to damage it too much. So what you want to do is you want to find the bottom leaf and literally just get in right into that corner there and just press it until it comes off. And then you've got this nice half moon shape, and you can see on here that it hasn't caused any real damage to the plant. It has a very tiny little leaf connection surface, so it's not going to cause any significant damage to the plant, and it will give you a more aesthetically pleasing plant, unless you really like that tangled look. So I hope that helps. So we've covered light requirements. They like some light. You can put them in the sunlight. You can leave them in practically no light and they will be okay. So it really depends on what you want from your plant and how you want its growth to form and flourish. In terms of soil, just a normal compost or houseplant potting mix will do fine. I tend to repot mine probably once every year and a half, maybe even 2 years, unless it's like had a really big growth spurt and it's kind of spilling out of its pot. But you'll be able to tell if it's really starting to struggle. It's usually when the roots are starting to grow out of the bottom and it's looking really dense and compact, and you've lost that soil quality at the top, where it's starting to dry out and just look like, I don't know, dirty ground. Why is this making me so yellow? Okay, I haven't personally particularly noticed that these plants have any pests that they're prone to. I, touch wood, haven't had an issue. It doesn't mean to say that they are pest resistant, but they seem to be fairly good. So common problems that you might come across will generally be to do with your watering habits. Honestly, that's the only thing that you're going to struggle with, I think. So you never ever want to leave your Dracaena in like wet soil. You never want to leave it sitting in water, because that will just rot the roots and that will be what kills your plant. For mine, I just let them dry fully out before I water them again. I do not ever water them when they're wet or moist or damp or anything. I wait till they're dry, bone dry, and that seems to be what does the trick for them. They seem very happy like that. I have never had an issue with these particular plants at all with that watering regime. That being said, it might be different if you live in a hotter country. In the UK, obviously, we don't get that much heat and that much sun, and particularly when my plants are not living in sunlight, they're living in quite low light conditions or no light conditions, they will not be photosynthesizing so much, so they won't be consuming or using that water. So you just do not want them to be wet. They do not want wet feet. So if you take one thing away from this, no wet feet. Okay, I think I'm going to do a bit of plant care, and you can watch or you can skip through it, whatever you want. I'm going to speed it up, so do what you want and come along for the ride. I would like to know in the comments whether you find Dracaenas difficult or whether you find them to be easy care. I find it's really mixed. Some people just have no problem with it whatsoever, and some people, for some reason, kill them. I don't know how. How are you doing it? Please tell me. Not that I want to do it myself, I'm just very curious how you manage to kill it, but obviously a lot of it will be subject to your climate conditions. So I'm not really judging you, I'm just curious. There are plenty of easy care plants that I've killed, so don't worry, you're not alone. It's just I'm interested in this particular one because I found it such an easy breeze. I will get into the plant care. I am also going to give them a shower. I might try and film that. We'll see how it goes. My filming capability is still limited. So I might do that, I might not. I guess if I don't, I'll probably cut this out. So my phone ran out of storage. So hopefully you can see from the ground, I have got rid of quite a few leaves from both of those plants. And I reckon he's looking just a bit better. He just, I don't know, he looks more sparse, a bit more haircut, neat. Here is my other little fella who, this is really difficult to actually make this look fine, but I hope you can kind of get a sense of it. You can see more of his stem. For me, I find that more aesthetically pleasing, just being able to see some of the structure of the plant, but it really depends on what you want really from your plant. It won't harm it either way. The pruning tends to produce a bit more new growth out of them, but it won't harm your plant to leave it, it won't harm your plant to prune it, so it's completely optional and up to you. Okay, so here we are with the shower. Oh, nearly tripped over myself there. Not a good idea. So all I am going to do is go over them with the shower head, give them a good kind of shower over with water, make it lukewarm so that they're not going to get shocked by either hot water or really cold water. You don't want to shock them. I'm then going to leave them in the shower for probably the rest of the day, just so they can drip dry, and then I will take them back to their original place. I am just keeping them in their cache pots, just so that I can collect any water and chuck it away in such a way that soil doesn't go down my shower drain, basically. So that's what I'll be doing now. Okay, and then shut them in, get some nice humidity in there so they can enjoy it. Sorry, I know you can't really see very well from here, but that is where I'm going to leave them for a bit. I'll probably leave them for maybe 30 minutes and then make sure that all the water is gone from their cache pot so that they don't get wet feet, as I said before, but that will be after that. I will leave them probably for the rest of the day. Once I bring them out, I will kind of inspect them for any more dust and wipe off the leaves should they need it. So there we go. One final point that I forgot to make was that these are pet safe plants. They won't be harming your dog, your cat, probably not even your hamster. I'm not willing to test that though, if they happen to get hold of it. So it's a very family friendly, pet safe kind of plant. It's a good one to go for. For me, I really like them structurally to kind of give some life to a room, but also keep it kind of industrious in a way, I guess. Not that I have an industrious room, but that's what I think of when I think of Dracaenas. So they are very often used as an office plant for many of the reasons that I kind of spoke about in terms of their ease and their lack of light requirements. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful to you. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Please let me know what you think about Dracaenas, whether they're a plant for you, whether you've struggled with them. If you have any tips that I might have missed, then please do shout in the comments. Thanks so much for watching.